Milton Mulberry Jr. was going to die. Now you're probably thinking, what a morbid way to start a story. But it's true. We all die. I will die, you will die. But in this story, and maybe in yours, death is just the beginning. Death was an all too familiar friend to Milton. In fact, it was his only friend. Milton Mulberry Jr. was going to be a mortician. His father was a mortician, and his father's father was a mortician. A job that had been passed down for generations. Like an old hand-me-down sweater, the Mulberrys were morticians. Milton had no choice in the matter. It was a certainty, like death itself. Milton Mulberry was different. All the kids in town could easily see it. All except one. Lola Littleton was blind and had been since birth. She liked kung fu, books on tape, and taxidermy. Milton Mulberry was in love, but so was Harold Henderson. Harold was the first kid ever to come over to Milton's house. Milton, from that day on, would always wish it was for a different reason. At 3:07 each day, Harold Henderson would kick the crap out of Milton. This continued 7 days a week without interruption, including holidays. Milton had just witnessed the fall of the most deadly and villainous 8-year-olds of all time. Wait, it couldn't be. It was. This was the first time a girl had ever touched Milton. Her hands were soft. Milton would remember this moment for the rest of his short life. Geoffrey Chaucer once said, "Love was blind." For Milton, this was true. Lola liked coming to the funeral home. She liked to touch the faces of the dead. She told Milton that their faces told the stories of their lives. In their wrinkles and their scars, she would find tales of adventure, heartbreak, and love. She told Milton he was really lucky to have this job. And for the first time in his life, he agreed with her. On November 13th, John and Martha Littleton died in a car crash just outside of Hirten Dojo. In her 7 years of life, Lola had never once felt blind until today. The next day, Lola left to live with her uncle Telluride in New York. Lola would never see Milton again for the rest of his life. Milton, his heart broken, would never love again. And so, as I sadly stated at the start of our story, Milton Mulberry Jr. died. No longer wishing to live amongst the living, he would return to the Mulberry mortuary and wait for his body to join him in death. At 78 years old, Milton was still waiting. He'd left the mortuary a total of 6 times in the last 60 years. Death remained his only friend. His family would have been proud. Well, not that proud. Milton longed for death, but his broken heart continued to beat. He was tired of taking care of the dead. So, he decided it was time to join them. Milton Mulberry was dead, but as I told you, this was just the beginning. Milton had awoken 6 feet below the earth, confused and terrified, but not as shocked and terrified as Eide Caesar, who up to this moment was rather enjoying his new job. Eide's heart stopped at exactly the same moment Milton realized he was missing something. This was the reason Milton had returned. He had given his heart away. And now he just had to find the person who had taken it. The expression, "listen to your heart," takes on a whole new meaning when it rests in someone else's chest. The road was long, but surprisingly animated. And soon, Milton found himself outside his heart's door. It had to be her. It was always her. Lola Littleton had a heart attack the day Milton died. His death saved her life. It's not often we get a second chance at love, a second chance at life. Milton wasn't going to waste it. Harold Henderson at 81 was still an arsehole. Every day since her parents' funeral, he'd been trying to win Lola's heart. He'd been failing for 73 years. But Harold didn't like to lose, and he was tired of getting rejected. At 77, Lola's kung fu was still in top form. But Milton's 78-year-old heart, sadly, was not. True love is the most powerful force in nature. A force that can rip flesh from bones and tear out a man's heart. It's the only thing worth fighting for. The only thing worth dying for. Lola Littleton, like Milton, was dead. Now, you're probably thinking, what a morbid way to end a story. But it's true. We all die. I will die. You will die. But in this story, and maybe in yours, death is just the beginning.
Watch new scary vids every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.